Hello and welcome to gusmcdollgames, and thank you to our subscribers. I'm Nick McDowell, and today we're continuing the Allied Grand Campaign in Close Combat A Bridge Too Far, a game based on the Battle of Arnhem, Operation Marketgarden. In this series we use the missions in the Allied Grand Campaign to illustrate one or more aspects of World War II infantry minor tactics at the company level and below. Each episode we conduct basic mission analysis, develop and analyse possible courses of action, then decide and execute the plan in real time, followed by lessons learned. Please remember to like the video and subscribe for more great strategy and tactics content, and if you want to buy me a coffee, the links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. In this episode we're in the Arnhem sector, the Oosterbeek area of operations. Our objective is to retain the Oosterbeek Landing Zone. It is Day 3 of Operation Marketgarden, 0600 hours on 19 September 1944. Oosterbeek Landing Zone. You must hold this area. The landing zone is your primary supply source until 30 Corps arrives. Your task will be difficult as you will face increasingly large German forces and the terrain is very poor defensively. Brace for a large assault if Arnhem falls, as the Germans will get more troops and try to push you back to the river. Keep this area clear as long as possible. Do not let the Germans establish a foothold on your landing zone and staging area, or you'll find your troops running low on ammo, food, and morale. Let's examine our forces. Overnight, Battalion has provided us with reinforcements and resupply. I have requested a second mortar for additional fire support, and even heard rumours they're bringing up a 17-pounder anti-tank gun. Airborne Bren teams are the core of the British Army. They use a light machine gun, bolt-action rifles, and hand grenades. Use them on the front lines, but they should run or hide from tanks. Airborne rifle teams use bolt-action rifles and hand grenades. The team leader is armed with a submachine gun. Use rifle teams on the front lines and to hold victory locations. They are useless against tanks. Airborne recon teams are the eyes and ears of the British Airborne divisions. They are armed with submachine guns and grenades. Use them to scout enemy positions and to perform behind-the-lines operations. Airborne Piat teams consist of an anti-tank bomb projector, a bolt-action rifle, and hand grenades. Not as effective as the Panzerschreck, the Piat's effective range is 8 to 80 metres. The British Airborne Sniper is a specialist trained in marksmanship. He is armed with a scoped Lee-Enfield rifle. Put him in a location with good fields of fire so that he can eliminate enemy leaders. Airborne 6-pounder light anti-tank gun teams also contain rifles and grenades. Best used as an anti-tank weapon, this gun is also effective against infantry targets. Its high rate of fire makes up for its low armour penetration. Airborne 17-pounder anti-tank guns are effective heavy anti-tank guns. The team also contains rifles and grenades. Best used as an anti-tank weapon, this gun is also effective against infantry targets. Airborne 3-inch medium mortar teams also contain bolt-action rifles and hand grenades. Because mortars can shoot over obstacles, position these teams behind buildings or trees. Use them to suppress enemy infantry and lay smoke screens. Airborne Vickers medium machine gun teams also include bolt-action rifles and hand grenades. Position these teams in multi-storey buildings or locations with long lines of sight so they can suppress enemy infantry. Next, let's look at the map and do some mission analysis. I will develop a plan and then execute it in the game. Our mission is to retain the Oosterbeek Landing Zone. We have a company from the British 1st Airborne Division, consisting of 2 Bren light machine gun sections, 3 rifle sections, a recon section, and a sniper, with 2 3-inch medium mortars, a Vickers heavy machine gun, 2 Piat teams, a 6-pounder anti-tank gun, and a 17-pounder anti-tank gun in support. I have marked 6 areas of interest. Number 1, 2 single-storey buildings adjacent to a lightly wooded area I can use as a main line of resistance. Number 2, a 2-storey house that is an obvious place to put a machine gun position, as it has great observation and lines of fire across the whole map. This also makes it an obvious target and focal point for the enemy. Number 3, a field behind a hedge that provides a concealed approach into the rear of the landing zone position. Number 4, water-filled ditches and hedged fields that afford a forming up point and covered approach for an attack. Number 5, the landing zone, an area of open ground that I am defending with little cover and concealment. And number 6, a hedged field that could also be a forming up point for an attack. From this position, the enemy could cover the entire landing zone with observation and fire. Based on the last 2 battles in this area, I assess the enemy will continue to mount company-sized attacks to retake the landing zone and cut me off from supplies and reinforcements. Given the presence of a panzer division in this area, I must expect an armoured counterattack with tanks and heavy infantry. The enemy's most likely course of action is a company attack, from a forming up point in the hedged field, concentrating all their combat power into a main effort on a narrow front. The infantry would cross the field, supported by tanks in the open fields of the landing zone. An attack here would be screened from the rest of the map by the buildings and the wooded areas on either side. Once in possession of this area, the enemy could dominate the whole map, keep my forces under observation and fire, and interfere with resupply and reinforcement to the Arnhem sector. The enemy's most dangerous course of action is a right flanking attack. The tanks would fire and move through the gap between the trees and the two-storey house. Meanwhile, their main effort would use the covered approach to outflank the two-storey building and get into the rear of the defensive position. This would make the position untenable for me, force me to retreat, and prevent resupply and reinforcement to the entire Arnhem sector. Back in episode 9, on day 1, I established the basis of my defensive plan in this area. This consisted of a main line of resistance in front of the wooden buildings, an attack by fire position in the two-storey building, a block position on my left flank, and a mortar in a support by fire position. The plan worked, and, under attack by a full-strength German infantry company, the understrength British Airborne forces held the position and inflicted 3 times as many casualties on the attackers as they took. Then, in episode 16, on day 2, I analysed the enemy's likely avenues of approach for armour, integrated natural obstacles into the defensive plan, and placed an anti-tank gun to cover both likely engagement areas for tank movement. This plan also worked well. The anti-tank gun knocked out the enemy tank, and the company again held the position and inflicted 3 times as many casualties on the enemy as they themselves took. Now, as we move into protracted defence, I will continue to develop my defensive plan and determine the fire plan in greater detail. 1st Platoon under Sergeant Powell will defend the single-storey buildings with a Bren section and 2 rifle sections, with a Piat team and the sniper in support. We experienced strong infantry attacks here before, so I want this position well defended. 2nd Platoon under Sergeant Ballard will conduct the block task on my left flank with a Bren section and rifle section, and a Piat team hiding behind the 2-storey building. I will detach Staff Sergeant Olsen's recon team from 2nd Platoon and place it on the right flank, partly to defend the mortar and gun, but also to probe forward across the field when the time is right. I was happy with the anti-tank gun position in the last engagement, as it could cover both engagement areas, was protected by the infantry, and was only vulnerable to enemy precision mortar fire. I'll place the 17-pounder in this position, as this gun will be able to handle whatever armour the Germans throw at us. The 6-pounder will cover engagement area 2 from the hedge line, with a secondary task in case enemy armour breaks through 1st Platoon's position. The Vickers will maintain its excellent firing position in the 2-storey building, and I'll disperse my mortars, one in the tree line and the other near the hedge. The principles which have been referred to in the preceding sections, Chapter 12 Defence, are equally applicable to the case of protracted defence. As time passes, there will be a gradual elaboration of the temporary defences, obstacles and the trench system will be developed, and the fire plan will be determined in greater detail. We have 30 minutes to achieve our objectives. I will now move my troops into position and execute the plan in real time. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the various courses of action and if you've identified a viable alternative. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more great strategy and tactics content. And so we begin. Enemy mortars target the 6-pounder. Target tank, Mark IV Panzer in the open, 250 yards. Fire! Miss! Load! Fire! Miss! Load! Fire! Hit! Damaged! Load! Fire! Hit! Destroyed! A second Mark IV tank moves into engagement area 1 from landing zone 1. Jarrell's 6-pounder doesn't have the shot. Time for Bombardier Rhodes and the 17-pounder to swing into action. Target tank, Mark IV behind the hedge, 150 yards. Fire! Miss! Load! The tank returns fire from its machine gun and its main gun. Fire! Miss! Load! Fire! Hit! The second tank is destroyed. Both gun crews go to ground. Earlier I spotted infantry around the canal on my left flank. I call in a mortar fire mission. A Sturmgrenadier squad, nicely bunched up. The Vickers joins in. The second 3-inch mortar joins the fire mission. The reserve squad has taken casualties. The Germans have tried to place smoke to screen their forces and blind my guns, but it is ineffective. Time for the recon team to probe forward. With the tanks dealt with, both guns can now load HE and attack the infantry. I locate a Schwerers or heavy machine gun squad. Duval's mortar shifts to a Sturmgrenadier squad in the open. Jarrell's 6-pounder takes a hit. Gunner Rhodes is dead. His brother on the 17-pounder will not be happy with that.
We're under heavy fire.
German morale is not great either. They are pinned down in the open and taking heavy casualties, and the smoking wrecks of 2 Mark IV tanks can't be that encouraging either. Another Sturmgrenadier squad is moving up the canal. That makes 3. Duval's mortar shifts fire to target that squad. First platoon ambushes a Panzerschreck squad with grenades, just in time as it could have destroyed the 17-pounder. The Germans continue to suffer casualties. I briefly identify an additional MG42 squad. Combined with the 3 Sturmgrenadier squads and a Schwerers Maschinengewehr, this tallies to 5 MG42, and with 2 Mark IV Panzers, this is a strong attack, but going nowhere.
We're pinned down.
Hol mich hier raus!
We're pinned down.
Private Stone is killed, shot through the head. His offsider Bronson takes over. A stark reminder that this is a two-way firing range. But so far, except the Panzerschreck, my main echelon of riflemen have held fire and not joined the battle. This battle belongs to the supporting echelon.
We're under heavy fire. Attack on!
Hol mich hier raus! Hol mich hier raus!
The 17-pounder is putting down heavy direct fire into the main group of German infantry.
Unter Beschuss!
The 3-inch mortar takes a hit, and Private Taval is killed.
Nimm deine Waffe!
Edgar's mortar runs out of high explosive. The 17-pounder continues to inflict casualties. The Sturmgrenadier attempt to outflank the Vickers.
Move completed.
Up north, 1st Platoon has killed another Panzerschreck squad, hunting my guns. Staff Sergeant Olsen's recon team has located the enemy Granatwerfer mortar and targets it.
Hol mich hier raus!
We're under heavy fire.
Hol mich hier raus!
First Platoon sends Corporal Levay's rifle section forward to support the recon team.
Sergeant!
Olsen is wounded and out of the fight. But the Granatwerfer is also taking casualties. The battle ended because the Germans were routed from the map. The Allies gained control of the area, but the Germans are expected to launch a counterattack later. The German forces took excessive losses. I have made Allied progress of 80 against expected progress of 54 by the end of the day. I suffered 4 KIA and inflicted on the enemy 33 KIA, 1 MIA and 2 armoured vehicles destroyed. Once again, the landing zone is secure, for today at least. Let's examine casualties on both sides. First, the British. Gunner Poole on the 17-pounder and Gunner Rhodes on the 6-pounder both knocked out tanks and received Distinguished Conduct Medals. As does Private Bronson on the Vickers. This fight mostly belonged to the supporting echelon, and the casualties reflect that. 1 KIA each in the 6-pounder gun, 3-inch mortar and Vickers, and Staff Sergeant Olsen from the recon team seriously wounded. Then the Germans. Yet another Kampfgruppe from the 9th Panzer Division is mostly destroyed. I'm hoping they run out soon. They brought a strong force to battle, 3 Sturmgrenadier squads, an MG-42, 3 reserve squads, 2 Mark IV Panzers, a Schweres heavy machine gun, a Granatwerfer mortar squad, and 2 Panzerschreck squads. So, what did we learn? In protracted defence, even though the broad outlines of your position may not change that much, you should always try to mix it up a little. Do something different and unexpected. Use tactical surprise to keep the enemy guessing and retain the initiative. In this case, I moved the 6-pounder anti-tank gun to fire directly across the landing zone. This was a bit of a risk, as it also exposed the 6-pounder to enemy tank and machine gun fire. But I managed this risk by retaining the 17-pounder in the original firing position, able to cover both engagement areas. And the risk paid off. The 6-pounder knocked out the first German tank within seconds, and the 17-pounder knocked out the second tank shortly afterwards. With both tanks destroyed, the fire support echelon of guns, mortars and machine guns made short work of the enemy infantry, most of whom never came close to the main line of resistance. As a result, my main infantry force remained concealed from the enemy. However, an improve for me. As soon as the recon team located the German mortar, I should have moved faster to reinforce them from 1st Platoon and conduct an immediate counterattack to take the landing zone. If the battle had lasted longer, I could have lost the entire recon team. Better yet, rather than sending the recon team out alone, I could have attached 1 or 2 sections from 1st Platoon and made it a probe. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and donate, and stay tuned for the next episode.